Welcome to Trench Diaries. This is Blood, Dust and Snow, Chapter 14. August the 30th, 1941, Saturday, 1800 hours. Up until now, the Russian artillery hasn't fired on this place. Our troops must have captured Verizi and thus probably forced the Red batteries to withdraw from there, thank God. Yesterday, during the barrage, the infantry gun platoon of the riflemen suffered casualties, 2 killed and 4 severely wounded. And when I visited the communal smithy and the attached carpenter's workshop this morning, the men there were busy making a coffin for one of the civilian dead. We slept quite well last night here in the kitchen of the children's home. We have been on alert, and it seemed that the Russians were planning another operation against our little village. Our sentries have reported that they had heard faint sounds similar to that of Morse code. They had seen the light signals in the distance, but they hadn't seen a single living being. Yesterday evening the weather was brilliant, but in the morning it started to rain again, and up until now it has been miserable all day. I can make good use of the rubber boots which I have brought from Sivovsk. They are big, misshapen things with felt shafts of the kind the farmers up here are wearing. Up here one can, at least I think so, tell the women apart by their clothing. The Finnish girls and women seem to tie the ends of their headscarves back around their necks in a way which covers part of their chins as well. The Russian women, on the other hand, just like those in Poland, simply tie theirs in a knot below the chin. This morning I was just sitting in my tank drinking coffee when the mayor of the village walked past and was distributing flour. I sent Vrenger to take a look into the big barn, which had so far been locked. He returned and reported that the barn was more or less empty and only contained several radio headphones, a few food supplies, some old rubber tires, and old pots and pans. I decided to take a closer look at the headphones. The mayor explained to me that these had been left behind by members of the Red Club, but by then I had already switched my interest to the other barn and ordered it to be unlocked. Lo and behold, a box of English machine gun ammunition and about 100 bottles, Molotov cocktails, which the bastards had made themselves. The bottles contained an added layer of very fine tobacco of the kind which was used for pest control on cabbage fields to aid the burning time. Rubber straps, fashioned from old tires, held the long phosphorus igniter. I was burning with rage and ordered the man to be brought to Comrade Helletat. He, being the village commander, would have to decide upon punishment after interrogation. What a bloody mess. If one isn't facing soldiers, then one has to cope with partisans. Only this morning, in the neighboring village of Novosibirskaya, 2 women notified the Russians about one of our reconnaissance patrols. One of them has already been strung up on the sports field. The village itself has been turned to ashes and the population has been rounded up on the village square. The most unbelievable things happened there. Entire Russian recon squads spent the night there. The women smuggled arms for the partisans and we are giving them bread in return, even though we have hardly enough to feed ourselves and distribute the surplus grain of the kolkhozes among their workers. Only the good-natured German encounters problems such as this. Someone should shoot the whole lot of them. August the 31st, 1941, Saturday, Novosibirskaya. It's my birthday today. I've been given a nice present. Oberst Zollenkopf had said to Hille, and he passed on to me, that I tend to be too worried and careful when it comes to the deployment of my platoon. I've been sitting here for an hour now, trying to get these few lines onto paper, but I am so angry that I am not making any real progress. Such a disgrace. I will not forgive that any time soon. Angry as I am, there is no sense in me going on about this here, but I will repay in kind to Herr Zollenkopf one day. Just after I saw Hille, I thought for a while about the whole thing. Then I went back to him and told him to run a complaint via official channels so that I could publicly make my case. Zollenkopf, however, was not in his command post. Hille listened to everything again, but advised me against opening an official case about all of this. 1300 hours. I am still sitting in the kitchen where I slept during the night. In about 1 hour we'll attack Veriza. Yesterday night, just when we had settled down to sleep, we were called back to the company. A defected Russian lieutenant had reported that early in the coming morning a Russian regiment would launch an attack on Gorki, a little dump of a village which formed part of Lobe's defensive line. Wünsche was ordered to support the company of infantry in that village, while I was recalled to the company and to keep ourselves ready there. That's worse than working in the fire brigade. Now, I really hope that this crap will end soon, since today I am finding it very hard to find the right kind of enthusiasm for the whole thing. What with all the personal attacks and launching accusations against me, I will not take it. My God, what a nice 25th birthday that is. Outside it's pouring down in buckets, the roads are totally soaked through, and in addition, the local rifle club accuses me of hesitation. No, I will not take this. Soon we are supposed to attack Veriza. I wonder if the attack will really start or if we'll just be sitting here again until it gets dark. Everything is possible, and it wouldn't be the first time. My crew just made 2 pans of fried potatoes and another of goulash. The field kitchen has supplied us with the meat. Today we make our food ourselves and everyone is okay with it. If only we had a few greens to go with it. The boss just returned from the battalion and told us to be ready in 45 minutes. That means eating quickly and maybe closing my eyes for a few minutes. 1400 hours. I'm standing on the road to Veriza. It's raining again. What a nice birthday this has been. It will have to be celebrated later. Our artillery is firing and it is firing too short. My mood is a bit better again. It might be gallows humor. Rudi Schöner is back. He has come to visit us with Glaskin. September the 1st, 1941. Monday. Veriza Posyolok. I am sitting in the house of a few old Russians. The people are very kind to us. A table just cleaned by the old woman is standing next to a warm stove. There are no bugs here, too much water here for them. Our company is standing in Posyolok, Old Posyolok to be precise, which together with Veriza forms a large forest settlement. There are brickworks nearby and there is a minefield there. Yesterday, when I was driving here my platoon to reinforce the riflemen, I got out of the tank when we crossed a ford, and it was then when I spotted the mines. Hille has just arrived with the rest of the company, and one of his vehicles hit a mine on the left of the road just at the spot where I had marshaled my platoon past the threat. Track and roller damage only, and one man was slightly shocked. Yesterday's story continued thus. From Siverskaya we drove to Veriza over completely muddy roads. When we arrived there, my platoon was ordered into the village to assist the riflemen who had taken a number of prisoners. There had been no serious resistance. I reported my arrival to the leader of the rifle company, Oberleutnant Montabon, an arrogant, stupidly insolent churl. Similar type as Glaskin, but much worse than him. He told me that I was now subordinate to him and ordered me to split my platoon up and to send the individual vehicles to different locations. When I told him that I would not do that, he told me outright that I should go back to where I came from. That, however, hurt my pride. After all, Oberst Zollenkopf had made a related remark when he claimed that I was too tentative when leading my tanks. Well then, all right, in that case I will deploy the tanks individually, and when something happens, I have the best proof that my tactics are right. I put my own bucket onto a particularly threatened spot and stood guard from 23:45 hours to 0500 after I had slept, not very comfortable, for about 4 hours in the tank. At about 0400 it became light, and when visibility had improved, I made myself 2 sandwiches with honey, which I then consumed in silence, thinking about celebrating my next birthday. I hope I am not still in the army then. I then moved into a little hut where I slept for a while in a deck chair next to the fire. But now I'm already tired again and try hard to keep myself awake by writing. I've just talked to the old people here. I can now more or less understand every word with a bit of gesturing with hands and feet and the occasional use of a pencil. There was even a bit of praise from the old woman. I'm quite proud. Her brother-in-law had been a general of the old Russia. Her husband used to work in a factory in Leningrad as a carpenter. Since 1922, they had been living in this house where, quite recently before our arrival, Red Army soldiers had been quartered. He just showed me his silver pocket watch, which is now lying on the table. Swiss-made, 16 jewels, runs without making a sound. Right now, the woman is peeling a few potatoes for us. She had already offered me some of those in the morning, but then we had still been expecting a food delivery via the field kitchen, but their heavy lorries got stuck on the bad roads. The baggage train is still in Siversk. By the way, the carpenter there, after having lost his house, has moved into the one next to it. The other people have a mirror here in the house, and looking into it, I can't help noticing how much hair I have lost during this campaign. How did this happen? With my 25 years, I can't say I am particularly happy about it. I have to admit now that here in Russia they do have some really pretty girls. One of the refugee girls who, after staying in the village here for several days, came out of the bathhouse here this morning is just my type. She's not Russian, more of the Finnish-Estonian type, which is common here in the region of Leningrad. I wonder if there will be time to eat the potatoes which the old woman is kindly and voluntarily preparing. What will they have in store for us today? Who knows? Will probably turn out to be one of those after-dinner surprises again. Surprise, surprise, as expected, we are to drive back to Nikolskoye. The job has been done here. We were just in the process of eating the potatoes. Wittkötter had fetched a tin of fish from the tank when Engelhard brought the news from Hille. Now it is getting dark again and we'll have to cross the deep ford. That sounds really great. We are just rolling through the village of Staraya Posyolok, and I have to say that the people here are very clean and not too fond of the Bolsheviks. They have welcomed us with bunches of flowers, in fact, and everywhere people are waving when we roll past. The populace astonishes me. Something that doesn't happen every day. 10 prisoners are standing at the roadside and want to hitch a ride. We gave each of them a slice of army bread and then loaded them on the Panzer force. The hungry locals are standing nearby and are also asking for bread, so we get a few loaves from the leading tank and quickly distribute them. We've taken plenty more prisoners today, by the way. September 2nd, 1941, Tuesday. We are standing on the road between Vyriza and Kurovica. Not a soul knows why we are standing here so long. We were supposed to reach Vira, which lies on the main road, yesterday night already. But first, we had to pull our vehicles across the Vyriza ford. Wünsche and his platoon had been designated for that job. On the path leading to the fort, there were mines which had been cleared and placed by the side by pioneers of the 8th Panzer Division, but which hadn't been diffused and not even marked with barrier tape. In total, there were 14 of them piled up there. And when Jürgen's tank rolled towards the fort, it hit a picket fence which fell over right onto one of those mines. It exploded at once and ignited the other 13 mines. The effect doesn't need to be described. Obergefreiter Berhorst, one of the old men of our company with 42 attacks under his belt, was killed. And that, to protect the sensitive nerves of possible future readers, is describing it mildly. Jürgens, the driver, suffered a concussion of the brain and related other things from the blast. Unteroffizier Steffen, the commander of the tank, and his radio operator Zurhausen, who both had been walking a bit in front of the tank, were lucky and remained unscathed. Of course, it's the pioneers who are to blame for this. They have negligently violated their duties and a lot more could have happened. Then, just as the first of our vehicles rolled past the brickworks, another mine went off down at the fort. And all that only because of the pioneers. Wilhelm Lope addressed a few of them who had taken part in clearing the mines at the fort and asked why they had only been dug out without defusing them too. Our orders were to clear a path. No one ordered us to defuse anything. Yes, understood. Just like us when we point our weapons at the Russians in a close combat situation and then we don't pull the trigger because no one had ordered us to do so. We loaded the body of Berhorst in our tank. The poor boy had been torn up terribly, so we had to wrap him tightly into a tent square before we could do so. The detonation had killed him immediately. Near a barn, on the grounds of the collective where we spent the night, there were a few trees. We dug his grave below them and decorated it nicely. Just as we did for the grave of so many other comrades, we made a cross from birchwood and placed it on the grave. In the meantime, some comrades had brought potted flowers from one of the nearby cottages. Those were also put on the grave. After a silent tribute, we walked back to our vehicles and to tasks that still lay ahead of us. From today we have been assigned to Gruppe Limbrun, but for now we are still in Staraya with the baggage, where our vehicles are undergoing some much-needed maintenance. What will become of us then, I don't know yet. It seems we'll be forming the vanguard again. Our company is billeted in a large building, a farmer workers' convalescent home. We are now in the region of the forest belt around Leningrad. Yesterday, the old man said that if we went a bit further north, there would be wide open terrain. Siverskaya, just like Virza, is surrounded by woodland. There must be an airfield in the distance or some industrial site with a lot of large hangar-like structures. I've never seen so many railway lines before in Russia. Since the beginning of the campaign, from the very first day, we are now in the first village and in the first house with electric lighting, and not only that, it is still working. And they even have running water in the house. The wash basin, however, is blocked. Outside there is a deep Russian trench, and in that there is a thunderbox designed in a way which makes it impossible to use it quickly. The reason for that is that it is unavoidable to spend at least 10 minutes laughing before business can commence. The beam has been fastened to the sides of the trench and has been furnished with a backrest, but it is clear that the designers didn't care much for the practicality of it all. Anyone trying to relieve himself on the contraption looks a bit like a monkey sitting on a sharpening wheel. And just to make sure that the cactuses who perform on it are protected against the rain, some clever dick has decided to install 2 glasshouse roof panels above it. That way, anyone sitting there while the bombs are splintering is guaranteed to get an additional hail of glass splinters into his face. Another peculiar thing here is the wide use of hammocks, which can be found in every home. Also, the women do not walk barefoot or with wooden or bast fiber shoes anymore. Here, they often wear leather shoes with high heels and thin socks. Both men and women, however, wear the quilted standard jackets of the kind the Red Army soldiers are wearing too. Nearly every worker wears a thick wool pullover, a torn pair of trousers, and a flat cap. And with their mouths filled with cigarettes rolled with newspaper or sunflower seeds, they are now standing around without employment. All the large factories around Leningrad have stopped working, and that gives them time to talk to the German soldiers, marvel at the weapons, and to listen to them when they talk about the different Europe and of German socialism. And they are genuinely interested, asking about the German working hours and the wages, if we can buy everything, and for what prices, the living conditions of the workers. The kolkhoz farmers want to know how much livestock and ground our farmers own. Questions of that kind come up again and again, and we notice the great joy with which they welcome us here, especially the older people who remember life in the old Russia and those who have been prisoners of war in Germany. September 3rd, 1941, Wednesday. Hille was with the Oberst yesterday. Now he has also received his assault badge. There's also news about our new task. Today we'll stay here and concentrate on servicing the vehicles. Tomorrow we drive to Panzer-Regiment 11, which has been restructured and is now under command of Knight's Cross bearer Hauptmann Stern. Together with them, we are going to be subordinate to the 36th Infantry Division, which is launching the attack on Leningrad, together with the 6th Panzer Division. The 1st and 8th Panzer Division are being pulled out of the line and will form the Army Reserve. That means that the old 5th Company is now going to the scrapyard to gather rust. Instead, we fight the final battle for Leningrad alongside the infantrymen with whom we have already fought at Lake Peipus. I am glad that Glasgow doesn't have the company anymore and that it is now in the hands of the businesslike and calm Hauptmann Stern, who is taking over. I wonder what else we'll experience in the coming days. The fortifications in front of the city are not shabby and have been prepared long beforehand. But then, the artillery of the 36th Infantry Division is most excellent. Since we received mail yesterday, my mood has changed. There was a letter from home containing developed photos of the tank battle at Rasenyai and from the first days of the war in the east. The pictures, which my mother has sent me, are all very good. The letters from the Heimat have blown my bad mood away entirely. Last night, I sat down with the boys of 6th Company for a while. They had set up a radio and played some really good music, serious music from Belgrade. It felt like a festival hour, simple radio music. As soon as I am back in Hamburg, I can finally go to concerts again, into the theater, just like Herbert did when he was on leave there, just a short while longer, and then I will have an even greater right to enjoy these pleasures. Hille is said to have received a bollocking from Koll because he has missed some appointments. I have no idea what exactly. Now then, I want to take a look at what mail has arrived in the makeshift orderly room here. The technical servicing of the vehicles is mostly finished. The men are doing their laundry and cleaning their weapons. Wittkötter had the watch last night and is now lying sleeping on a Russian folding bed which someone has organized. We've all slept as much as we could last night. It was a real treat. I have now slept a couple of hours more. What else am I supposed to do without trousers? I have given mine to Isha and Metgen, our company artificers, and have them mended. They've set up their shop here. My trousers are slowly falling apart, and new ones are a scarce commodity. Fellner with his lorry is in Germany at the military clothing office. We are expecting him back in about 2 or 3 weeks, and I expect that the war here will still be ongoing then. At least, then I will be getting a new uniform. Due to all the things I have been through on foot over time, I now look scruffier than the tank gunners do, and because of the oily main gun, my trousers are constantly dirty too. When Leningrad has fallen, I will wash them in petrol again. The crew has lost my washing bowl and has mislaid my coat. It's a disgrace how the brothers care for my things. That is, not at all. I have replaced Wenger with my old radio operator Schweinsberg. I hope that from now on my tank's radio will be working without fault. The boys of the baggage train are always bragging loudly about all the fighting they have been in. I hate that like the plague. My men, even the youngest of them, always roar with laughter when they hear such talk from the baggage train. Today at 1800 hours, there is roll call. Metgen and Ischer, the artificers, have received their promotions to Unteroffizier. For bravery in the face of the enemy, Wittkötter, Lauer, Kavlik, Laufermann, Mund and Kortli have been promoted to Gefreiter. Several of the older men of the baggage train as well. One of them even has the assault badge but had been kicked out of a combat formation because he was afraid of the enemy. It's funny, I can spot people like this just by looking at their faces. I can see it in their eyes if they are useful in combat or not. A whole bunch of assault badges were awarded, and Unteroffizier Wiesner, the driver of the fuel truck, received the War Merit Cross. In the morning wake-up call at 0500, it was announced that we would be leaving at 0600. We then would drive to the 2nd Abteilung, where we'll have another day of rest, and then we attack Leningrad together with the 36th Infantry Division. September the 4th, 1941, Thursday, near Krasnogvardiesk. It has rained the whole morning. Across Nikolskoye and Bolshoya, we have ended up in a little Finnish village where the Russians resided before us. Steel helmets, machine guns, Molotov cocktails, ammunition, all kinds of stuff is littering the ground. In the past, we would not even have considered entering a Russian cottage, and now we are happy if we can take shelter from the cold rain and are grateful if we can find a warm stove on which we can fry our potatoes. Outside, my tank is parked next to a sauna. On the other side of it is Graves' tank. He has set up a tent there. Pusch, Wittkötter and my new radio operator Schweinsberg want to sleep in the antechamber of that sauna, the banya, as they call it here. There is plenty of clean straw nearby. I have moved into a bug-free cottage of a Finn. His wife is currently doing the laundry and it is a bit smelly, but still better than outside in the rain. I wish I could see into the future to find out our fate up here at Leningrad. Division has informed us that the 36th Infantry Division and the 6th Panzer Division will attack west past Krasnogvardiesk towards the coast, which means we'll end up somewhere near Peterhof on the Gulf of Finland. And the 3rd and 8th Panzer Division are indeed being pulled out to form a reserve, for now at least. On our left, the 1st and 58th Infantry Division will advance. How long will the whole malarkey here continue? I am expecting there will be a hard winter just like last year. And it is coming early too, the potato leaves have already frozen. We may as well expect the worst. The only good things is that I have got rubber boots. At least my feet won't be wet all the time. Damn, if only this damn rain would stop. Outside, a few men of the reconnaissance platoon are dragging 2 large glass panels through the mud. They have taken them from a greenhouse and are now bringing them to Hille. He has moved into a house in which the window glass is missing, and the glass panels will now be leaned against the windows from the outside. A few Finnish girls walk past carrying sickles. Why are they not using scythes, at least when even the threshing machines are not working? But now I do at least know why the Bolsheviks chose the sickle as one of their symbols. Sickles are used everywhere and by everyone here. Scythes are rarely seen and machinery is unknown. Most tractors have been taken away by Red Army troops and the last horses were taken by the partisans. Earlier, I spoke to one of the farmers here. His name is Hokanen, Andrei Philippe, and in his passport his nationality is indeed recorded as Finnish. And he told me that whereas all the Russian men in the region had been drafted, the Estonian and Finns were not. Here in front of the house is a very deep well. I've looked down the shaft right now and it seems to be full of ice at the bottom. Ants can get that out to make ice cream for us. They had tried to do the same in Puljevo but didn't manage to get the cream and sugar mix to thicken up. Instead, they poured a whole bottle of schnapps and lemon juice into it and then distributed the vile stuff as lemon ice cream liquor. Turowski has been placed under 5 days of arrest because he told Enz, who is an Unteroffizier, to shut his face. Poor Hugo. Now that I am sitting here looking out of the windows, all the odd characters are walking past. The old fighters of the 2nd Abteilung who haven't heard a shot fired in anger for 2 months since Yamkino and who have spent all the time away at the rear with the baggage train. Yesterday, Wilhelm Lopez said that by now every one of us has more attacks under his belt than these guys had in Poland, France and Russia combined. I wonder if Neuling will lose his nerve in the coming engagements. Only sad that such people, who with their lack of tactical understanding have the fate of men like Jochen Möllenberg and Kleinjung on their conscience, can't be dragged in front of a court-martial. There is no way I will stay in the army longer than required. Since Jochen, Günther, Vielbaum and Kleinjung have been killed, and Theo Langenbruch and Bongard have left us, I have fully withdrawn into the little world of my platoon, and I feel quite well in that environment. Now then, I will arm myself with a map, and then I am heading to Hille to a platoon leaders meeting. I wonder what news he will have. September the 5th, 1941, Friday. This morning I have really earned my lunch. I was in charge of the search operation inside the forest here in this sector of 5th Company. I can only repeat, only good that I have my rubber boots. It rained heavily when we walked out, but no one pretended to have painful feet or related ailments. We stomped down the forest path towards the road where the artillery is located and divided the men into groups, 3 men and 1 NCO in each. The groups found all kinds of propaganda leaflets which were very well designed. We gathered them all up and burned them once we came back. The men also found several excellently camouflaged wooden bunkers, all abandoned and empty except for a few hand grenades which we took with us after defusing them. Slowly we are getting used to handling Russian weapons. Here on the outskirts of the village we found piles of gas masks, rifles, steel helmets, machine gun belts and spare barrels. Anyway, we have spent the whole morning rummaging through the wet undergrowth, and now we have to see how we can somehow dry our uniforms again. It was Hauptmann Stern who ordered us to search the forest. During the briefing he also informed us that our division would be deployed in the Schwerpunkt of the attack, that is, the focus, on Leningrad and the fortifications west of Krasnogvardeysk. Using thousands of workers, the Russians have built good fortifications there. Concrete and wooden bunkers, all well camouflaged, minefields, mine barriers, anti-tank trenches, stake obstacles, barbed wire barricades, and other wire entanglements. All that is waiting for us there. I wonder how we will fare. In front of Leningrad, the Russians will surely field large numbers of tanks too. No doubt they have managed to save a few hundred. But anyhow, I must not be too negative. When our buckets have broken down, been shot to pieces and have been blown up by mines, well, then we'll have to attack on foot and get ourselves the infantry assault badge in addition to our panzer badges. Here in the east, one meets the old comrades of the 2nd Abteilung again. They've been at the rear through most of the time, during which we have been on defensive duties. Walter Leckenbusch and his men in charge of the 2 radio tanks, Klein, Schmalt, Loris, Oberfunkmeister Middelmann and the 2 recruits, who now have been with us for nearly a year. Spar is also running around here and getting fatter by the hour. Jupp Heidmann too, with my hair loss I will soon be as bald as he is. And then there are the old unsympathetic Feldwebel of the staff company and staff, men like Dettenbach, Falk, Lenz, Oberschirmeister Naundorf and the old Unteroffiziere who joined up with me like Franz Dilling and Meger. 7th Company is also based here. Yesterday during the briefing I ran into Ulrich and Lieutenant Knust. 1600 hours. I slept for a few hours. Outside the weather has cleared up a little and now and then a bit of blue sky makes a brief appearance between the clouds. Even though the rain has only ceased a short while ago, the road leading through the village has already dried up a little. Fockel, the driver of Hauptmann Farah, is standing around there. The stupid twat has got stuck again with his car. There are some people who never learn. In a civilian job, one would just fire them, but here in the army, one needs to learn to cope with them. Yes, the army. I have to admit that I indeed reached a low point recently, probably fostered by the trouble on my birthday, to which I had been looking forward since the campaign started. And I guess that the relentless rainfall and all that sitting around also plays a role. The campaign is to be over soon, one way or another. But for me, there is only one option now, to stick it out until the Endsieg has been achieved. One must not think that the wounded are better off, or if I had a wound like this, I could at least get out of these uncomfortable, dirty surroundings. I am past all that now. Only today, a few letters from good and much-loved friends in the Heimat, a few photos and the thought of my mother's upcoming birthday have brought me back to my senses. I am not giving up now that the end is already in sight. And what a sight Leningrad is. The thought of the Endsieg and the knowledge that the people in the Heimat are watching and relying on us, all that will now spur us on during the final thrust on the Red Metropolis, on the cradle of the Red Revolution, on Leningrad. 1830 hours. I've just had a bath in the banya and it was so hot that I nearly collapsed. The whole platoon had to go to the bathhouse to sweat out all the bad flu germs. Looking at how basic the little bathhouse here is, it is not bad at all. Only good that I was able to pop my head through the broken window now and then to avoid suffocation. After I had poured a few handfuls of water over the red-hot stones, it became really hot in the low-roofed room. I closed my eyes and soon I really started to sweat. Then I worked myself over with the brushwood twig so all my pores were opened, and after I was really sweaty, I started soaping myself up. After that, everything was washed off with ice-cold water. That will surely have helped against the flu and colds. On the other hand, our attack has been postponed by 24 hours. September the 6th, 1941. Saturday. Pikelevo. The attack has been postponed by another 24 hours. It is now not taking place anymore on Sunday but on Monday. This morning, all platoon leaders met with the boss and were issued with maps of the terrain we will have to attack across. There is something wrong with my stomach, so I went into the fields to relieve myself before the briefing. It would not have been ideal if I had been forced to do so while the meeting was ongoing. Wonderful to have stomach problems here, and as a free bonus, there's always the chance to catch some bugs, dysentery, a cold, kidney pains or crabs, the blessings of Russia. I have to pop out again now, I'm feeling miserable. Only yesterday evening, I was still sitting with the comrades drinking mulled wine and chatting about the recent fighting. We have time for that now. A Primus stove detonated in Schweinsberg's face. Schweinsberg, our best technician, had started to repair it, and while he was doing so, the burning stove exploded and the flames burned his neck and right ear. Now he is lying in the porch with the medic and is moaning. Very painful burns, poor chap. He'll probably be transported to the rear. He can hardly move at the moment. And another episode done. Right now, we can feel the author's frustration with the course of the war, as well as the reprimand he received for apparently being too cautious when deploying his tanks. But the most memorable thing in this part was the almost comical chain reaction that caused the huge explosion of the mines after one of his tanks drove through a fence, which in turn fell on a singular cleared mine, which in turn set off an explosion of 13 or so other mines, killing one of the men. That is something right out of a Mel Brooks or David Zucker movie, but I guess such things happen in war, as tragic as they are. Anyway, our boy is very close to Leningrad, and we shall see how that whole ordeal turns out in the next episode. Cheers!